What's going on, everyone? So I made a video on Kyle Lowry and how the Lakers are linked to him as a potential veteran option off the bench at the point guard position. Now, Chris Paul is another option. I said even in that video, I kind of lean more towards Chris Paul, but Kyle Lowry, I don't think would be a terrible option in that regard, right? Give you an adult, give you a veteran, give you a guy that's well respected, a guy that can play the role, that has been there, done that you can count on and rely on in big moments, even in the playoffs, right? Obviously, he's older, he's 38. He's played about 60 games a season the last 4 years, like 58 to 60. Also, I think if he's playing a lesser role off the bench, I think that would help, one, kind of hone what he's best at in limited minutes, say 15 minutes a game. And then two, I think that him just not having to play as big of a role game in and game out, I think could also do well for his health, particularly once you get to the playoffs, because he has had some seasons with Miami where, come the playoffs, he's hurt, he's injured. Yes, he might still be out there, but you can see the struggles and the issues. I also like the idea of Kyle Lowry more so than Chris Paul. There's a lot of things I like more about Chris Paul, but a lot of things that I like about Kyle Lowry in the sense of like the grit and dirty work guy. Something that I think the Lakers really need is that grit and dirty work guy. Somebody that can, sacrifice his body, dive on loose balls, right? Still kind of get after it on the defense side. Still kind of be that pit bull. Also, I think he could kind of fit in like a Jared Dudley type role where he can kind of slot in, be sort of a mentor to a lot of these guys, but also be a guy that can make an impact, right? But also can be an extension of the coach, can be a guy that kind of just, again, keeps things calm. LeBron goes to the bench, whether the Lakers trade for a Trey or DeJounte or whomever, when they go to the bench, he can come in, he can be the adult, he can kind of keep everything, keep the structure, keep everyone in line. But one of the things that popped into my head in that video that I was like, I wonder if this may make more sense is using Kyle Lowry to get DeMar Derozan. Now, I know a lot of people are kind of split, right? When I've talked about DeMar Derozan, a lot of people love the idea of DeMar Derozan, a lot of people don't. A lot of people are like, he doesn't shoot threes, blah, blah. Right? I love the idea of DeMar Derozan. I think DeMar Derozan makes a ton of sense. One of the things the Lakers need badly is just a bucket getter and a closer. And DeMar Derozan has been some of the best in the league in both of those regards. He's been like top 3 in just clutch the last like 3, 4, 5 years, something like that. Like 2 years ago, he was number 1 in the league, right? He's the guy that can close for you, can hit big buckets. Know a lot of people are like, he doesn't spread the floor. There's a lot more to floor spacing than just standing out with your hands in your pockets out on the perimeter, right? And he's also really good at the deep too. Right, so even if he's not like standing behind the 3, even if he's just like at the line, it's still the same thing essentially. But to me, it's like you had, 2-3 years ago where there was talks about Kyle Lowry and DeMar Derozan both potentially teaming up and going to the Lakers. That they would work out some type of deal to get DeMar and then potentially trade for Kyle Lowry. Or I think Kyle Lowry was the free agent, so they would have traded for DeMar and then signed Kyle Lowry. But point is that there was a lot of talks of like Kyle Lowry, DeMar Derozan, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis potentially teaming up. That, hey, DeMar, he gets to go home, he gets to go to the Lakers. DeMar Derozan has talked repeatedly. I mean, like, what was it, a year or two ago? He went on like an entire press tour about how he wanted to be a Laker. He thought he was going to the Lakers, right? And just it ultimately didn't come to fruition. Now, Chicago, I do believe if Chicago offers him a max, I do believe he ends up going to Chicago. But if they're kind of playing with that, I mean, even DeMar DeRozan himself said recently, like, hey, like, I can't rule out the Lakers. I would absolutely still go back to the Lakers, right? Like, it's one of those things where it's like he's still kind of leaning and hinting towards the Lakers. Now, I do think a big part of that is leverage for Chicago, right? It's like, hey, if you guys don't pay me, I could just go to Lakers. I could just take the taxpayer mid-level, or not the taxpayer mid-level, but the mid-level exception, right? They could let D'Lo walk. I go get $13 million at least and play in my hometown and compete for a championship with LeBron and Anthony Davis, right? So I do think that there's a big part of that was just kind of, let's apply some pressure to Chicago. But I also think that there's real potential there. I also think that DeMar DeRozan is somebody that, I mean, he's expressed it even before, right, dating back to San Antonio, right? It's somewhere he's always wanted to be. And so I think if Chicago kind of plays around and there's questions about like, are they going to pay him? And you can go bring in Kyle Lowry to also get DeMar DeRozan, to me, that's kind of a no-brainer, right? Like, even if you told me tomorrow, like, hey, if we sign Kyle Lowry, right, it guarantees DeMar DeRozan. Like, even those that are like, I don't want Kyle Lowry, stay away from Kyle Lowry, right? Wouldn't you want to do that? Wouldn't you take on Kyle? Because again, it's not like Kyle Lowry's a bum. Like, he's still a good, valuable player. He's still a guy that was averaging 8+ a game, right? He's a veteran guy that has had big shots and hit big moments and stuff like that. He's a guy that can be very valuable, and he's signing for a vet minimum. They're not going to sign him for, the mid-level exception. He's getting a vet minimum deal. So even if he's just like a Jared Dudley role, I don't hate that idea, especially if it lands DeMar DeRozan. Now, again, this is just my thoughts. I want to be clear on that. This isn't like, this is going to happen, right? I just want to be clear that, like, this is just like, hey, like, DeMar DeRozan's already kind of leaning towards like, hey, I'd love to go to the Lakers. Chicago, we haven't heard anything in that regards, at least at the time of recording this video. Maybe something's came out depending on when you watch it, but at least at the time of recording, it's like, hey, we haven't heard anything about Chicago really buckling down and giving them the money. There's rumors that they might, but they're also trying to figure out where do they want to go, what direction they want to go, how do they want to do this? Do they really want to lock up DeMar DeRozan at, 3 years, $90 million or something like that? Probably not, because DeMar is getting up there in age, right? So it's just like, okay, if Chicago fumbles the bag and drops the ball, and the Lakers can free up the full mid-level exception, right? And you can also bring in Kyle Lowry, and now DeMar DeRozan gets his best friend. They both get to contend for a championship, and then Lakers get both guys for free. And DeMar DeRozan, like, the problem with losing D'Angelo Russell is there's not really anyone else that could come in and give you the production that D'Lo did at that price. DeMar DeRozan is one of those guys. Thing is would DeMar DeRozan actually want to come and take the mid-level exception? To me, it boils down to the market, right? If Chicago, so here's the thing. If Chicago offers him like $18 million, I could see him going, okay, for $5 million less, I could just go play with the Lakers, right? Like, I think if it's significant, right? Again, like if Chicago offers him $30 million, I don't, because now you're talking like you're getting $17 million more a year playing in Chicago over LA. But if they're like, hey, we want to give you like 17, 18 million a year, then I could see him just being like, man, for like a couple million less, I could go play in LA, contend for a championship with LeBron and Anthony Davis. And then if you could bring in Kyle Lowry as further incentive to incentivize that, and it's like, now I get to play with my best friend, now I get to play with LeBron James and Anthony Davis, now I get to be in my hometown, now I get to contend for an NBA championship, and I'm still making like decent money at 34, 35 years old. It's like, to me, like that could be a very significant draw. So again, I still lean towards Chris, but like if Kyle Lowry is a non-factor, right, and it's like, I don't really care, like, I'll just sign regardless, then sure, I'd go look at another option. But if he's like, hey, Kyle Lowry would maybe have me consider coming more, I think that to me, that's a no-brainer. If you could use Kyle Lowry as leverage to go get DeMar, or just even take a flyer on it, right? Now it's like the Bronny LeBron talk, right? It's like, man, if you draft Bronny, LeBron might come. Now, obviously, DeMar DeRozan isn't LeBron, but it's a similar idea. Like, you have two guys that are friends that wanted to win a championship together, that were unable to win a championship together because DeMar DeRozan ended up getting traded for Kawhi Leonard, right? Especially right after, like 3 days earlier, the owner and GM were like, no, DeMar DeRozan, he's a Raptor forever. Like, he's the guy. And then all of a sudden he's getting shipped out for Kawhi Leonard. To me, it's like Lowry and DeMar had their vision. They wanted to win a chip together. They were, BFFs, right? I mean, just watch some of their press conferences and stuff together. It was hilarious, right? They were like the best duo in the league in that regard. So I just think it would be a great storyline for DeMar and the Lakers and Kyle Lowry and everybody. It's like, hey, like we get to go to Lakers, get to contend, right? Get to play alongside LeBron James and Anthony Davis. You get to come in and be what you are as the bucket getter and the scorer and all that stuff, right? I can come in, I can play a big role. Like, we can go and really make an impact on the Lakers and potentially contend for an NBA championship. I just think if you can, if it's something that is a factor in potentially landing DeMar, also you wouldn't have to trade for them. So you'd still be able to keep everybody. You'd still have all your picks, and you could use those picks to maybe upgrade in other areas, right? Like if you could go get DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry, and you still have, Austin Reeves, D'Angelo Russ, or Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura, Jared Vanderbilt, Gabe Vincent, and all these guys, well, then that just gives you further depth. Or you could package those guys in all your picks to go get, now you don't need that other star because you got DeMar DeRozan. So maybe you're going and getting, Dorian Finney-Smith, or maybe you're going and, working out like if KCP wants to leave, or Alex Caruso. There we go. Maybe go get an Alex Caruso. Maybe go get Dorian Finney-Smith, right? And have like Caruso, DeMar, Dorian Finney-Smith, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis. Good luck. I'll take that team all day, including Sunday. And then you have, a Kyle Lowry, Max Christie, whatever, Taurean Prince, Christian Wood, and can you go sign, an Andre Drummond or something, right? Like, boom, there you go. Let's get it, right? Now we're the Los Angeles Bulls, right? Between Caruso, DeMar, and Andre Drummond. But I like that idea. If you could use Lowry as a leverage piece, why not do it? But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Pass a question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think, like, yes, use Kyle Lowry as that piece? Like, if you could sign Kyle Lowry and that brings in DeMar, do that? Do you think no, stay away from both, or only get DeMar, or whatever? Again, however you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it. Let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.